Hello everyone, just Goran here and welcome back to another Planet Zoo real life inspiration video, and today we are looking at the Spectacled Caiman and we are starting off with Almere Jungle, where we are entering the Temple Caiman, which is a small little temple area inside of this indoor greenhouse type zoo, where we have a fun little Caiman exhibit right over here. It's quite a nice exhibit. We got a little beach area, some education about the Caiman, including a little story about how the zoo got their Caiman. They basically took it over from a smaller zoo or a private zoo, which their enclosure wasn't really up to the standards anymore, and they wanted to get rid of their Caiman, and then this zoo took it in, and that's when they gave them this nice enclosure over here. We got a bubble button button to activate the bubbles, which is quite interesting, and in the back there we can see the Caiman on another little beach area, which is separated from the other one by this kind of dividing log in the middle over there, which has a bunch of orchids and other things growing on it. Really quite a nice enclosure over here. Next up we have the aquarium of the Zoo of Berlin, where you can catch a glimpse of the Spectacled Caiman already as you're walking through all the fish tanks over here, where you've got this underwater viewing kind of almost in the ceiling, but that is the Spectacled Caiman enclosure. And as you can see, they also share this enclosure with some turtles over there swimming around, which is pretty cool. But as you go up the stairs and actually go to the top level of the aquarium, which is where all the vivariums are, you can enter this little bridge section, and on the left you have the gharials, which you may have already seen in the gharial inspiration video, and then on the right over here is the exhibit of the Spectacled Caiman, and it is so freaking beautiful with all of this lush overgrowth. I had the actual money shot over here with the sun shining through that glass window over there on the top. But yeah, as you look down, you can see the Spectacled Caimans just chilling over there. This is a wonderful enclosure for them. It is so spacious, and they've got two separate beaches, a nice waterfall, and a big water area as well. So it's definitely a really cool enclosure. You can also see in the back there that they have a nice little basking area with the green lights. And as you walk around the rest of the hallway with all the vivariums, you get another glimpse into here as well through here. Mostly allows you to see the area. This doesn't really provide that much better views of the Caiman themselves, but it's still a nice little thing to tie the whole area together. It's pretty cool. But that's it for Berlin. Let's move on to Dierenpark Hoenderdaell, where we can find the Spectacled Caiman in a tropical house as well. Once again, we have some temple theming over here. I especially love the roots growing around the viewing area over here. That's really quite nice. And then the enclosure itself, yeah, they've got some of these temple stones to rest on and a nice big pool in the middle. And as we keep going around the enclosure, on the left side there are some smaller windows into the enclosure as well, allowing you to see more of the interior over here. And they also get you a little bit closer to the beach area in the back. So when the crocodiles, Caiman I should say, are resting on here, you get a slightly better view of them. And lastly, as we move to the back of the enclosure, you can see that the door into the enclosure has been nicely decorated and kind of integrated into the rock wall there, so that's pretty neat. Then next up we have ReptielenZoo Iguana, another Dutch zoo. This is a reptile rescue, so the enclosures here usually aren't the most amazing thing you'll ever see, but it's nice to see kind of what the requirements for these animals are still. So yeah, here it's quite boxy, but they do have a nice large pool and some land areas as well. That's pretty much it here. So next up we have Mondo Verde. This is a zoo that I'm not a very big fan of. Here the Spectacled Caiman were also inside of a tropical house, although the enclosure, let's say it left some things to be desired. They've got a pool, they've got a little beach area, but could they really not have made it any bigger? I mean, they're in this huge tropical house, why not use any of that space? You'll also see that the Caiman itself is absent. I read somewhere that this was because the enclosure had not yet been approved, so the zoo wasn't even allowed to display the animals to the public yet, and had to remove them until the approval was finished. Next up we have the Zoo of Osnabrück, where the Spectacled Caiman are in the aquarium of the zoo, which is not a huge aquarium, it's a smaller building, but I do like the enclosure over here quite a bit, especially because of the lushness of this back wall. It just looks really striking and beautiful. The rest of the enclosure isn't much, just a concrete pool, which isn't even all that deep, and then a beach area on the right and the left of that. I still think it's pretty decent overall, but that background is definitely the highlight for me here. Next up we have Pairi Daiza, area, and we are looking at a huge boat. That is actually what we are going to go inside of. This is the Mercedes Emergo. I probably butchered that a lot, but this is a huge reptile house that's been made to look like a giant boat for reasons. And quite far into this reptile house, you will come across this enclosure, which is home to a bunch of iguanas, red-footed tortoises, and of course the Spectacled Caiman. So that is a pretty cool mix right there, but it's also just a really nice enclosure. It's quite large, albeit a bit rectangular. We do have some theming with the temple rocks over there. You can see the Spectacled Caiman sitting over here underneath a bit of a fern. But yeah, they've got a nice pool area. And there's a huge land area, of course, mostly for the other animals, I presume. I don't know if the caiman would venture away from this pool too far. But yeah, still pretty neat right over here. And that was it for Pairi Daiza. So let's move to the next zoo, which is the Zoo of Rostock. And here the caiman can be found in the crocodile house over here. So as we head inside, we can see a lovely enclosure for them over here. And once again, we have some piranha swimming around in there as well. But what I really like over here is that beautiful painted backdrop. I just think it looks really pretty. There's also a really cool crocodile fossil over here, as well as some fun little signs about danger and ooh, crocodiles are so dangerous. And the enclosure does wrap around all the way around this building pretty much, giving you many views of the caiman in here, of their several pools, all the nice plants that are everywhere, as well as the ventilation system above. But that's it for Rostock. Next up we have Musée d'Histoire naturelle et Vivarium de Tournai. Yes, a museum, because this museum is actually part of the EAZA, and that's why I visited it. I was really curious to see what that would be like. They basically had a bunch of breeding setups for all sorts of herbs, and they even managed some breeding programs, but they also had spectacled caimans. And I do say had, I don't think they have them anymore from what I could tell from Zootierenlisten, but this is what their enclosure was like. A big glass overhang to protect the visitors. The enclosure itself wasn't all that natural though. It was mainly a bunch of concrete tiers with all these sharp angles and such, combining everything together. Quite interesting, but not exactly my style personally. But we are moving on to the last zoo of the video, which is Zooparc Overloon, and we are in the South America house Madidi, walking up to the viewing area of the land part of the Spectacled Caiman enclosure. You can see some netting above the viewing area here. That's to keep out the monkeys that free roam the area we are currently standing in, to keep them out of the Spectacled Caiman habitat. As we move out of that walk-through enclosure, however, you'll see that there's no more netting on this side. There's just a nice big glass viewing area into the underwater section of the caiman here, which is once again shared by piranha. So definitely a very popular mix right there. But what's really cool about this enclosure and the piranha is that in the underwater section there is this light installed, and you can see the shadows of the piranha moving around, which is really cool, as well as some of the piranha getting illuminated by that strong light, making them look super magical and pretty. Another interesting feature here is the manhole cover underwater for reasons. But probably my favorite feature of this enclosure, I actually don't have great footage of, so let's head to the other side again and pause right here. And you can see there's a hole in the side of the enclosure with some bars, of course, to keep the animals out. But that hole is actually a place where water flows out of the enclosure and it feeds a stream that goes around this red-footed tortoise enclosure over here. So I think that's super cool, and kind of connecting the enclosures in here together in a fun way. I absolutely love it when zoos do that. But that is it for Zooparc Overloon, and those are all the spectacled caiman habitats that I've seen. Hope you enjoyed and got some spectacled caiman inspiration, and I will see you in the next video. Bye bye!